everyone, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. Another Monday night, back in action. All three of us at the same time, which is kind of like hard to get by these days. With all kinds of like schedules, people moving around and stuff. But I am your host, back in action over here in Chicago. Decent weather, can't complain, especially for middle of October over here. I'll take it. And Gally's with us. Gally, what's happening?
It's cold. It's colder
Is
than
it
I
really?
want it to be. Yeah, it's colder than I want it to be in the Northeast. It's so cold. I feel like I should turn on the heat, but I'm so cheap. We have not turned on the heat, and it's been pretty cold. But yeah, no. Overall, cold.
You're
Damp,
like, layer up,
windy.
Kelly. I'm not turning the heat on. Luckily, Bickler has the stash to keep him warm. What's happening?
Yeah, happy Indigenous Peoples Day. It's been raining for 3 days straight here. I guess it's gonna rain until the government turns back on. I don't know.
That's not a good.
Yeah.
You got a lot of rain coming.
Send an arc.
Brian Shelton says, evening, guys, last of Halloween. If you are not on our Discord, aside from the usual craziness, you are definitely missing out on the creepy location. Brian I always talk about this. He doesn't even have to put anything. The guy lives like a Unabomber in the middle of a field over there in the woods. So you probably don't even have to do anything at all. A couple of like deer cameras would do the trick, I think, but he decorates the hell out of that place. That must be like a location that people literally drive up to and be like, let's go see what the crazy guy is doing.
I assume that's the case, but then I also think that means that people drive up thinking we should go see what the crazy guy's doing. And I don't know that that's ever what you want people to say when they drive up to your house. So, Brian, it is an outstanding array, and the lights themselves, it's quite an investment. I really like it. And the really tall, crazy skeleton thing, it's pretty creepy this year. So, well done.
The lunacy says Gally still looks like he's on a 24-hour bender. All that driving is not treating Gally well, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean the decorations, the whole thing with Halloween, Bickler. See, Bickler has kids. Do you decorate, Bickler?
Fuck no. Dude,
no. Do the kids decorate? Are they getting too old, too cool for it? Because there's a phase, right, where they're like, decorate. Come on, Dad.
They did mention wanting to get up some like purple and orange lights, so we're gonna do that this weekend. Typically, we're very low key at this house. Halloween involves them watching movies that they're too young for and going out and staying up too late on nights that are school nights.
Yep.
And God bless these teachers where Halloween falls on a day where they go back to school. It's insane to me that that's even a thing.
That's the thing with like any of these decorations. It's fun to put them up, but I just hate taking them down. So I rather not take part in either part so that I don't have to get involved in the takedown over there. The bad thing is, so when Jasmine and the future son-in-law, Ryan, were here like I think it was like a couple of weekends ago. So they were here. So me and Jazz like went out to go get coffee and stuff like that. And Ryan was going to help Ange with like decorating the house and stuff because I was like, I'm not doing that, so he can do it. Yeah, well, I mean, you guys have not met Ryan, but I need a ladder to look Ryan in the eye. The dude is like 8 foot tall or some crap like that. So like we pull up to the driveway with Jazz, and I'm like, dude, is he gonna get freaking come back and take the shit down? Because this dude hung out like hung like these pumpkins and lights and stuff on the trees in front of the house. Where I don't. He probably didn't even need a ladder, but I'm not even gonna get to it with a ladder. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? I'm like, you guys better get your asses back over here. Is he taller than John? He's a lot taller than John. It's pretty.
Wait till he puts your chips on a shelf you can't reach. That's where the line's going to be drawn.
Yeah, he's a tall dude, the future son-in-law over here. So yeah, never have to get a ladder ever again if he's nearby. But international break, obviously. I don't know how much you guys are spending time watching the games. I think US played Ecuador or somebody like that the other day, I think, right? Did I see that right? I think I saw highlights like 1-1 or something like that. I mean, I watched the Turkey play Bulgaria away. They play tomorrow. They play Georgia, actually, like Mamardashvili and stuff. And I, at the same time, because we're in the same group, I was watching Spain take on Georgia, because we were hoping Spain would get a bunch of goals because they kicked our ass and stuff like that, goal differential and all that. And I'll tell you what, Nashville looked really good. I know they lost, but the game could have gotten like really ugly. How much international game watching are you doing, Gally?
Not much. I watched a little bit of the USA game. I was out Friday night with a buddy of mine. He cares about the game as well, so we had it on. They played what? I mean, actually, for the United States in this setup, it's probably the best they've played in a while. They played a decent Ecuador team. Now they don't have Caicedo playing, so you're basically like not playing without the best Ecuadorian on the planet. So it's hard to judge the Ecuadorian team, but they acquitted themselves well. They got a 1-1 draw. They were down 1-0 on a Valencia goal. How is the guy still scoring at this age?
Dude,
for the
I
national
literally
team?
was like, he's still playing? Jesus.
I was literally like, how can he be playing for the national team? So yeah, it was fun. It actually was a fun game. Balogun was really, really good for the United States. And when Pulisic came on, you could tell he was a different class than the rest of what they had. Like, there were times they looked decent, but it's still just like, okay, this is great. We're decent. About to host a World Cup. Decent.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
not good
mustard for that. Yeah, I mean, I saw the highlights and I saw Valencia score. I mean, they were calling him old. This guy is too old and stuff when he was playing for Fenerbahce. And it seems like a decade ago that was, and he's still like around and he's still scoring goals. So, Bickler, I know you're not an international team fan. So where are you at with that? How much did you watch?
I just attend these things so I can get the U.S. men's national team recap from Gally and be assured that I'm making the correct decision in my life to not watch international football. So it's like a giant reaffirmation every time we come back to do these things. I watched very little. I essentially did YouTube, some highlights of some just match recaps of things that I knew that, some of our boys were at. So just wanted to make sure that Wirtz is still crap in Germany and like, etc. So I got enough of it. Yeah, I got enough of it, but like I literally only watch international football out of obligation to this show and the fact that we're going to be asked some very rudimentary questions that I'm going to need to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to talk about some of the, because there's a lot of conversation happening, especially with the Turkey national team. They did beat Bulgaria 6-1 away, so to make up for the beating they got from Spain. But we're in the same group with Spain, which is the bullshit part about these European groups. So their best shot is basically being seconds, so they go to the next round of the playoffs or whatever the hell they're going to be doing over there. 1 foot in the door. They play Georgia tomorrow. I think as long as they don't lose to Georgia, they're in pretty decent shape, because Spain is just slapping everybody around in that group as they go around. By the way, I could not believe how bad Bulgaria was, because I did not know any. I mean, I don't know, like whenever you watch any national team, it feels like you're like, that guy from like, some players. Like nobody. I knew absolutely no one from the Bulgarian team, and I think pretty much most of them play in Bulgaria. That's probably why. But I was kind of shocked, because like I say, even the smallest countries usually have 1 or 2 guys in like bigger leagues that you might like recognize and stuff like that. But that was not the case. Internet, I guess let me ask you guys this. First, let's start with that, because Bickler, you started with the Wirtz thing, so let's keep piling up on that. How much stock do you put, even like when you watch a game? Because I'm always torn, because it's a different system, different position, different teammates. Everything is different. Aside from confidence, can you look at a performance and say, here?
Yeah, so no, that's predominantly, I think, why I'm not really interested in international football. Is it's just very hard for me to get, like, I enjoy watching the World Cup and these competitions, right? Because they're actually competitions, where these, I think it's just very tough to get, 20 plus dudes across different leagues together and just watch them play and it be interesting to me. The other thing I hate about international football is that, we talk about like, I think we talk about politics and football always intermixing, but this is the kind of politics I don't want mixing in football. And I think we're seeing that with what happened with Wirtz in Germany, because if you looked at the publications and the reaction from the German press to his performance, like, did he play great? No. but did he play as badly as the German press put out? No. And it just goes to show you that if your prize asset leaves home and leaves that league, that press is going to come after you. And to me, that seemed like this very unnecessary vilification of a player who they feel basically scorned that country and left for another team in the continent.
That's odd because it's a weird dynamic, Gally. I mean, obviously it's the German league, so the Bundesliga, they value it and they probably don't want to admit that, other leagues are better, like the Premier League and stuff. But, like in Turkey, for example, it's almost like the other way around. The guys who stay behind are criticized more than, like Arda and the Kenan Yıldız's and Hakan Çalhanoğlu's of the world and stuff. Except, like, we went through this with, like, Sadio Mane was going through it, right? Like, when these guys are really stars on top teams, sometimes they get more flack from their own media and country because they are expected to do the same thing, but they're not playing with the same players in the same environment and everything.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I mean, we look at this here and we're like thinking about it like these players, they're great players, but at the same time, they can only live up to what they can do. And when they don't have the opportunities, like you mentioned Mane, like Mane went to different leagues. He was in Germany, he was in Saudi Arabia. His country still felt like he was supposed to be this top player like he was when he was at Liverpool. And even when he was at Liverpool, he was kind of playing in the shadow of Mo Salah. So it's like he never really had an opportunity to be the top class player that he actually was.
Yeah, and I think, like I remember like talking about this with like Matush and stuff, like the stuff that Lewandowski gets because, like he's, when he's in his club, he's scoring like left and right. And when he doesn't score for Poland, you're like, well, you score over there. Why can't you do it over here? Kind of a thing. There's like a lot of like backlash. I mean, Dara says the international football is in decline. I think adding more is definitely more diluting. It's kind of like what Bickler was saying. I think there was even in these games, there are players who are semi-hurt. I think what they do next year will help, like less windows and more of like an extended international break. But, there's so many people like, like missing and not risking it and all that kind of stuff that's, I mean, it waters it down a lot, especially for friendlies, which I understand. Elimination games like the ones that, like Turkey and stuff are playing, obviously are more meaningful because so you want your guys there to kind of like represent your nation if you want to win the World Cup and stuff like that. But I always find it like a weird dynamic that people kind of like there's a huge backlash for star players if they don't perform as much. And yes, basically that's like Brian says, it is all about the money. Basically they wanted to get money from the Nations League. They're like, hey, you guys are doing friendlies anyway, why don't we make this into like a little tournament kind of thing, and then we'll get more money, more games. And I think it kind of like went south. So this is totally off topic with the international games. Well, actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me start with this. Stay with this first, because this is going to kind of lead to the other one. It's probably different to you guys. So this is probably more for the audience. I know, Bickler, we always talk about club over country, which I never ask you because I already know. But in the U.S., it's kind of like a different deal, I think, where the national team in a lot of countries, there's a lot of like bias. I mean, I know from Turkey, for example, like Fenerbahce players versus players in Galatasaray and stuff like that. Which club it comes from, the player comes from, makes a big deal. I mean, obviously, it's not an issue over here. The only thing I can think of is Major League Soccer players versus guys who went abroad.
Yeah, I think the politics in this country, like, I think it's maybe highlighted with other sort of more developed footballing nations just because of like you're talking about the Power 5 leagues over there, right? Or you're talking about a deeply domestic league that's been in existence for forever versus a MLS league, which has been redeveloped and developed multiple times in this country and branded as different things, right? I think it's just it's the rivalries go back hundreds of years, where the rivalries in this country are about 15 years old. So I think that's the main thing. It's just there's still definitely politics there. I mean, look at the whole Reina saga, right? Like that whole saga with Gio's playing time and stuff. I think the political stuff at the U.S. men's national team level smacks of like soccer moms arguing in the parking lot after the match about who did like that's it's so bad that even the politics suck in this country around soccer. Whereas I think when you talked about these other countries, you're at least talking about bad blood between players who have allegiance, like badge allegiances to clubs that have hated each other for 300 years.
Yeah, I knew I would get the most negative response possible. That's why we started with Bickler, Gally.
I mean, I'm not going to be that much.
To you.
I'm not going to get that much more positive.
But you follow. I mean, you don't follow, but you are.
I mean, I watch the team.
More
I've gone to some matches.
To the Major League Soccer, at least.
I really don't anymore because I don't have Apple TV, and they moved to Apple TV, and I haven't watched a match since. I used to go to the Revolution matches every once in a while. I enjoyed them. They had a good team for a while. It was a good time out, and it wasn't that expensive. But ultimately, the MLS has kind of moved on from itself. Like they're not really the presence. I don't think they're any reason why the United States men's national team could do well or not. Their problem are the people who run it. It's just their board, their president, like where they come from, everything, their ethos, like everything about the U.S. men's national team and their setup. It's just not a positive environment. Hasn't been for a long time, and they know it. They know it has changed. That's why every year when they try to make change, some yes man who was the right-hand man of the last person who was in the position gets the job, and it just keeps a perpetual cycle of shit. I mean, that's really what their problem is. They're not a terrible. They actually have a decent foundation. They have some players that you could build around. They have things you could work with. And even some of the MLS players have turned out to be kind of gems. And there's a couple kids that just went over to Europe that are doing really, really well that they could build around. But it's not enough time. Like Pochettino won't get enough time. He won't want enough time. He'll want out as soon as this World Cup's over. And they'll have to start over again. It'll be some retread MLS manager. And we'll go into 8 more years of maybe not making a World Cup. It's going to be great.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I know, like, it's totally different over here. There's not as much, like, club bias built in when you root for the national team. I don't have it as much. And I know, like, I mean, like, Turkish national team used to be a lot worse because it was only from the Turkish league. So it was like, how many guys are you getting from Fenerbahce? How many guys? Now, I mean, they're, like, scattered throughout Europe. So they're, like, coming from all over the place. But still, when people root for it, I know there's some kind of, like, a minor bias in there. Wanted to go on. I did not hear on this side, to be honest with you, but John is asking, and today is kind of like a casual yak about anything kind of a pod. So we'll address it right away.
Yeah.
Because I honestly had not thought about it, but I'll weigh in afterwards. Bickler, Gerard rejecting the Rangers job.
Right move. No reason to go back. I think I'm less keen on him as a manager than some people, but I just think that's not only is that a shit show right now to walk into, but this is a club that like very clearly was okay moving on from you. And I just think that's always a difficult situation to come back into anyway.
How about you, Gally? I mean, I agree with the why go back. I mean, that's kind of like the little shining points, like the good part of the resume, right? You have as a manager, why go back and tarnish that part of it and kind of like ruin that too and have a totally bad looking resume? That's probably why I would not go if I'm like Stevie, but where are you at with it?
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to go to Rangers. They're much worse off than they were when you took them over. They were set up to play for Russell Martin, which means they were set up to play like an attacking football match, and that's never Rangers, which is why it didn't work. And then when it fell apart, they fired him. But then they're going to try to hire a kind of a pragmatic type manager. It doesn't make any sense. They just wanted Steven Gerrard because he would be something that the Rangers fans would accept as an answer because they remember him winning when he was there. And that was the big reason they wanted him. They were just looking for him to, fill the storylines. And if it only lasted 3 months, fine, but it might get us through the next Old Firm derby and maybe we win it.
Yeah, I mean, Dara says he needs to go to the championship. I mean, I think if the goal is to revive the managerial career, Bickler, that's probably the natural step. Or do you think there will be a team desperate enough to say, let's write the name over here? I just don't see, when you see all these other managers like Lampard and stuff like that trying to rebuild the resume by like going to lower leagues, I don't see why anyone would, especially the way like the Villa experiment panned out. I'm not even considering the Saudi Arabia thing. I don't think that affects it at all in the resume, but it almost feels like if he wants a career in management, that should be the natural step.
Yeah, totally. I don't think I think sort of the jury's out on him now, right? I think after Villa, I think he's gonna have to build up sort of he's gonna have to build up that like that resume in a way. I just think that he took such a huge hit when he took that Villa job, and I think we were all pretty vocally like thought that was probably not going to play out well. So just based on the way he likes to play, I think a lot of what he likes to do as a manager actually translates really well to the championship. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went down that lower league route, did really well. I just, I think everybody's got to see a lot more before he gets the right to go in and play in these top leagues and manage.
I mean, let me ask you, Bickler, like 10 years from now, do you see him as a more established manager somewhere? Not necessarily maybe successful, but a manager somewhere in the Premier League? Or is he going to be one of those guys? Sometimes being a really good player does not always translate to being a really good coach, because you can't kind of like translate you can't teach some of the things that maybe came to you naturally, or that's not your skill set and stuff. If you had to, I should say, forecast, because I'm asking you to, 10 years from now, do you see him like managing Brighton or something like that?
Yeah, I could see it. I think if I were Gerard, what I think that Gerard needs to do is I think he needs to go the Arteta route, and I think he needs to be somebody else's number two. I just don't know if he's got the ego to allow himself to do that. Because I think that he probably just needs to learn some things under another manager, in terms of like, how he goes about and constructs stuff. I mean, there's all these things behind the scenes you don't see, like how you set up training, how you have like, how you schedule your meeting cadences, how you guys spend your off time, like what does the recovery windows look like? All these little details that you think about that a manager needs to know outside of just knowing football in general. And like, I think that he could probably benefit from something like that. Like I said, I just don't know if he's going to have, I don't know, his ego is going to allow him to do that. And I don't see him pulling like a Neville and like, coaching one team and not doing well. And then, I don't see him not coming back to coaching basically. And I'll tell you why, because
really?
like, yeah, I don't think like, I think he needs to be like, I think he like, it's a little bit of the Tom Brady thing where I think he's a little bit obsessed with football and like he needs to be involved in the game at some point. And I don't think he has the personality or desire to be in media, which is what most of these guys do nowadays. So I think his options are really, really limited in terms of how he is involved in football. That's why I say it makes sense for me for him to go be a number two under somebody for a long time, or not a long time, but somebody who's got a big enough name. You know what I mean? I just, like I said, I just don't know if I see his ego letting him go that route.
Yeah, Steve says he doesn't see Steve G
No.
enjoying. Yeah, I mean, yeah, enjoying it, because you have to. I mean, these days especially, you have to a little bit of sellouts too, right? It's just not showing up and giving your opinion. You kind of like have to sell out to the TV a little bit and take a stance or be more energetic or whatever. Like for the TV rating purposes, it's just not sharing your expertise. You have to kind of like add a bunch of like other stuff to it. I mean, my thing, Gally, is that I think Bickler is right. There's a lot of work that people don't, the stuff that maybe you sim through when you play Football Manager to get to match day there's a lot more of that than the match day managing and team managing itself. I just feel like maybe that's why like it's odd that Bickler says he'll definitely see him going back to it, because I almost feel like he realized the amount of work and energy that it takes and was not all for it.
I think he wants it. I don't think he's proven yet that he can do it. And I think that's the hardest thing. So now he's got to prove to a third club, right? Fourth, if you count the one in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Like a fourth club that he's worth their investment and the money and the time and giving him control. And I don't think that's going to be easy at this point, because I think when you're a player like him and you have so much talent, it always comes easy. And then when you try to do it and coach others, sometimes it's not nearly as easy to convey to them like your thoughts and your plans, because it came easy to you. And I think that's where, to me, it looks like kind of like the Michael Jordan syndrome.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't coach others or even explain to others because it came so easy to him and it was always his way. I think when you have players like that, that makes it very difficult. And I think Jared was a player like that. He was that good. He was at that elite level. And I'm not sure he's ever been able to convey it to players.
So basically, he's Gordon Bombay from the Mighty Ducks.
Or pretty much.
Dallas's Villa was a huge mistake. I think it's one of those deals where, yeah, it was probably not the best fit, but it's one of those where the opportunity is there.
How
It's
do you
like
turn it
can't
down?
say no. Yeah, right. I mean, you just almost like have to be like, I guess it's not really what I wanted, but it's like use it as a stepping stone. But that's why sometimes you have to be careful, and sometimes you do have to turn stuff down because it's just not the right move. And you can see it as a step, but then you can slip on that step and like bang your head on the stairs too. So you gotta like kind of like pick your choices accordingly. If he's obsessed with the game, go the academy route. See, but I mean, if you can't teach some of the stuff, the academy route is probably even worse. I almost sometimes feel like it's a different skill set. And I know like some clubs do this. You got to pick the right player just because somebody was a great player and a legend and stuff. Yes, the kids might listen to them, but does not always mean that they can teach Bickler, because some stuff, like I say, one, it comes natural to you. And at the end of the day, teaching and coaching is a skill set. It's not about knowledge. It's more about the training part of it too. There's a lot of people who know their shit, but they can't be teachers and professors because there's like a different skill set to be able to relay that information and have somebody else basically receive it.
I think so much of that has to do with your setup. Like who are your assistants and stuff, you know what I mean? Because some managers are like tacticians. Some are just like personality managers. Some are, you know what I mean? And like I think whether you're the type of manager who wants to get into like how you're going to set up tactically for the week and you want to deploy that in training, or whether you're the manager that essentially has to manage star personalities and make sure that everybody is happy playing their roles. I think that's what, I mean, we talk a lot of shit in general, but I think that's what makes Pep a special manager. I mean, we've talked about him being a checkbook manager, but at the end of the day, what Pep has been able to do is to get some very, very big names in all world football to buy into a merit-based system where they're not going to play 90 minutes every single week and they're going to rotate pretty heavily and they're going to win titles doing it. And like, that's a lot easier for us to sit on a pod and talk about than to actually do in real time. And I think those are the things, when you talk about a Steven Gerrard, I don't know that he's built like that. Like, I don't know that that's like, we talked about Gerrard as like, the captain of Liverpool and stuff at fairly young age. But I think like Gerrard was kind of just he was one of those captains like that. I'm going to drag a game over the edge just on sheer talent. Like he's the captain because he's who you look to win in a moment, right? Which is the total opposite of when you look at Jordan Henderson, who's arguably, in my opinion, the greatest captain ever at Liverpool, who was not that guy, but he was the guy that put everybody's personalities together in a blender and made sure it came out aces up, So I think it's just different. Like, I think just like there can be different sort of things that you look for in a captain, I think that translates over to being a manager too. And I just don't know that the winning captain, like the captain that goes and wins in game-winning moments, is necessarily translates to manager all the time, especially if you don't have the supporting cast around you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even the captaincy, Gally, it just feels like depends on what the team needs at that time. And I think, the Stevie's teams needed that guy, needed the Stevie captain to do all those things. Because let's face it, he was not always surrounded with that top quality. Whereas Hendo, for example, had the quality around him. And his job as a captain was to kind of like, constantly keep that pushing going and be another manager on the pitch, because we had such a system that really was kind of like constantly in your face that needed to be pushed. We talked about Van Dijk. It's almost like now you need that personality who's more calm and collected so people don't panic and stuff like that. But with this whole ordeal, I guess, with the being able to teach? Is he that guy for like the youth teams, for example?
He was in the youth academy setup at one point, and he was doing a good job. So I don't want to act like has ever done anything good at the club. Like, he was doing good things at our club with some of our youth players that made it through the system. What I would say is this: you asked about the captain, we talked about Henderson, and if you think a guy like I'll ask you this question: if in 10 years you had to bet on Steven Gerrard or James Milner managing a team to go on a deep run in the Champions League, which one would it be?
Yeah, I mean, it's easily Milner, right? But is
But
that part of that because you can see Milner, making the tough decisions, being in your face, and not caring about not being liked as long as he's respected. Whereas it feels like Steve is too nice of a guy. I mean, we don't know him behind the scenes, but he just comes across as too nice of a guy to do that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I come. I feel like he's the type of guy who could take over a young club, figure out a way, get them going right, and then win a big tournament and move on and then progress and then find a way. And I'm not talking win the Champions League, but like that Ajax run they made. Like, he could coach an upstart team, and I think he could coach them up because he can relate with everyone he's ever been around and every teammate he's ever had. And I think when you have that in you, to Paul's part earlier, like, it didn't come so easy to him. He worked harder than everyone else. That's why he's going to end up with, the most appearances ever in the league's history, because he's continued to work harder than everyone else. Like, I that's when I think about players that want to go on to coaching. They're the type of guys I always think become great coaches. It's never the great player. Like, it's very, very few and far between.
Yeah, because like I say, like sometimes it doesn't translate, and sometimes it has nothing to do with how good of a player you were. It's just a matter of, can you relay a message? Can you relate? And that's a good point, actually. Sometimes being able to kind of see it from all angles, because you had to battle yourself as opposed to just coming natural, makes like a big difference. Evelyn Hughes, yeah, honestly, that's like a good conversation for a day. But I think we're all biased, right, based on the eras we saw. I think within recent history, I would probably go. It's probably a very unpopular opinion because obviously, Stevie's a much better player. But as a captain, I always thought like Henderson was so much more valuable. That's why that whole Saudi thing was very disappointing. You can already tell, by the way, now that he's back in the league, it's the same dude doing the same things and, like playing the same way. And the example it sets. Okay, totally different topic. I kind of wanted to ask you guys this because we were talking with Angel the other day about it, and I was like, you know what, this is a good thing to bounce around people on a podcast. So this is probably more prevalent, I think, in American sports but now I see it a lot more in soccer too, and that's why it's starting to irk me, people. Okay, once the game is over, how do you guys feel about players just like chatting it up and laughing it up on the pitch, regardless of the results? Bickler, before I give my take on it, where are you at with it?
I'm fine with it in a professional setting. I'm not fine with it at the amateur level. It makes zero sense to me, which I probably is the opposite of what it should be. But to me, these dudes that are getting paid like millions of dollars to be out there and know these guys and have played with them all through the ranks and stuff. And have now, to me, like that sort of like warfare ends when you're collecting that level of a paycheck, to me. But to like at the amateur level, to me, I genuinely, like, even in my town, we had a competing high school that like we all hung out with the same friends. I fucking hated every single kid on that team just by default, like hated them.
Yeah. Okay, well, how about you, Gally? Because like we're gonna definitely differ on this because I mean maybe it's an age thing. Shelton says I hate it because yes, I personally despise it, but Gally.
I personally don't like it, but I'm kind of with Paul at the point where like they're professionals and they're kind of like, we all got paid today and like none of us got hurt and we go home to our families and like we went to work today. Like we would like at the end of work, you're like, hey, Bill, bye, Bill.
They also
bye,
professionally, they change teams every friggin' year too.
They make moves. At the same time, I understand like the visual frustration it gives, like the message it sends to supporters who care so much and put so much in, like, and it doesn't happen with Liverpool and Everton. Like, those guys are smart enough, even if they're friends, they're not chatting it up on the pitch. They wait till they go down behind, behind the cameras. But you see it like on the pitch sometimes. Even like, I remember there was a City Liverpool game and Mo was walking off and he was like chatting it up with like Mahrez or one of the guys, and they were just walking off the pitch and everyone got all angry afterwards. But I mean, they're professionals. To Paul's point, they're friends. They share the same agents. They share the same, you know, management teams. Like, they spend a lot of time together. So they see each other like we would see someone at a work event, and they think at the end of it we can say, whatever, and laugh. I
But
don't
it's
like
not a
it.
work event. See, like, I understand that because Angie was like, well, what do you want him to do? Like, when we were talking about this, because I was like, you know what? Like, it's not a work event. It's like you're going at it. If we were playing a match and Bickler's on the other team, I mean, first of all, I hate him the entire time we're playing. I don't give a damn, right? And I might not maybe intentionally hurt him or whatever, but I don't give a damn if I have to kick him or whatever. I'm going to do whatever it takes to win.
Sure.
When the game is over, I understand we're still like friends, right? And maybe we're going to yak it up and talk shit about you after the game. You're like, did you see what the fuck Gally posted or something, right? But you know what? I would rather have them do, and maybe that's fake. So it's kind of like contradictory. I realize that, but maybe it's fake. But I'd rather just say, I think somebody said in the comments, like, shake hands, high five, and say, we'll talk later, man. And then just go in the locker room. I don't care if you laugh it up or change jerseys or whatever. I don't even mind changing jerseys on the pitch, mind you. That's still a different argument. But I just hate it because I feel like you watch some of these games, I'm freaking exhausted as a fan watching it, rooting for the team. And when I see players just laughing it off that they just like freaking lost, it just bugs the shit out of me. And I think if you're going to go over there and clap the fans and thank him, if you're going to show that respect, I just feel like you should also respect the emotion that that person puts into it and not do all that shit in front of him. Is that asking for, I know I'm asking for fakeness, Bickler.
You are, which at least you're acknowledging. I mean, that's a self-awareness you probably didn't have a year ago, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
like,
facts.
I don't know.
Right
I don't know if you're joining me in the therapy group or whatever, but you're doing some work. I'll tell you. I guess I just think, like, if you make that kind of money and like, like the Mo Mahrez example is a good one. These are two guys who are multimillionaires who are at the top of their game and considered the best in the world, both North African, which puts them in a less than 0.5% percentage of the population. Like, I think they're fine to have a chat off the pitch. And I guess I just don't, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with two rival high schools, like, in my opinion. Like, it's your fault you were born in that fucking district, you piece of shit. Like, that's how I view that. Like, I want some like Romeo and Juliet like shit where there's like real fucking, you shouldn't have been born on that side of the tracks. Where it says like here, I think when you've made it to this, like, they've all made it, right? And I think like it doesn't bother me as much. But I know what you're saying, especially in a heated game. I guess I don't typically see that in a game that's fiery and very emotional and a tough fought loss. Like, I don't see that as much Liverpool Arsenal as I do when we smoke Burnley or something.
That's fair, but I mean, if we smoked Burnley, for example, you could ask the Burnley fan how they feel about that, because like they're the ones. I mean, I think it's easier to take after a win or whatever. And like I say, I totally understand, Gally, that it's your buddy from your. I mean, some of these guys go to the national team. They're together this week at the national team camp, and they're gonna go against each other like next week and stuff. I'm totally cool with it, saying like, hey man, say hi to whoever, blah blah blah. I think it's just like when it's like full-blown conversation about laughing and joking and stuff, it's just like, dude, like somebody just lost. So you should not be, it's not hurting you as much as it's hurting me, which I guess bugs me. Because you're getting fucking paid for it too. I'm not. So it goes back to what Bickler is saying. I feel like it's worse that they're professionals because you're getting paid for this shit. I'm not. And I'm hurting.
I mean, do you want me to acknowledge that your hurt is real? Because it is. I want, now I'm your therapist. Tim,
Yes, I feel very strongly about this. Can you tell? That's why I was like, you know what? Let
That
me ask these
pain-
guys on the
That
podcast.
pain that you're feeling, it's real. We should all sit with it for a minute. Because to be honest, no, like you make a good point when it comes to like how they kind of like laugh it off and shrug it off. But again, like I think to where Paul was going to, like once they're getting paid, like when the game ends, yes, they lost, but they still got the same paycheck. And their job is to wake up tomorrow and figure out how to do it better and win the next time they go out, because that's what they want to do. You hope that's what they want to do. But I don't think they hold it like we do. That's the difference between supporters and players. And I think that's what I think most supporters struggle with, is why don't these players in some ways seem like they care as much as we do? Because they don't. It's their job. I don't care about what I do for a living as much as random ass people care about getting paid. I'll tell you that right now. Like, that's the goddamn truth. Like,
No, that's fair. I like to say, I just don't like. I understand the like they have to forget it, but you know what? For 30 seconds, feel my pain, share my emotion. Like I say, it goes back to, if you're gonna like thank me for being there and come over there and clap, just hang in there for another 2 minutes until you go to the locker room and you can do whatever the hell you want. But yeah, I figured like I would get your. I know, like I'm probably a lot more passionate.
How do you feel about it when they start signing kids' jerseys?
Oh, love that. Give the
Okay.
jerseys. I see. That's fan love right there. And then
What-
Gally is okay with
Guys.
them giggling after a game of loss. But if they approach a kid with a jersey, it all hell breaks loose.
That's what they
if the
call
player
this.
signs the jersey for a small token of cash to them, I am all for it. Give it to a kid? Hell no. Especially one begging on the side of the road.
That's what they call in this industry a transition, folks.
Oh, okay. How about this for a transition? We're gonna do the rival bros tomorrow, and we're gonna talk about this United game. And you know, I will be really pissed if there's any giggling going on after that game if the result is not good. Because I'm telling you, I will hear it from Edip a lot. He's already excited that we're in a poor form over here finally, so he has some like good stuff to say. But United game coming up. What do we expect to see, Bickler? I mean, I know you guys talked about it last week, and like, you know, like we've like discussed it on Discord and stuff. Is it a good time, bad time for an international break? How do you think this team comes back from that?
I think it's going to be two teams that are struggling to figure their midfield out. Like, that's what I think it's going to be. And I think it's just, I mean, I think the main thing that we said is, like, for the love of God, let's hope McAllister's not coming off a plane and trying to start this match, right? Like, I think that's my main thing, is like, let's just play. Like, to me, I would love to see a Jones starting in this match. But I think that's, it's so tough. It's so tough. I think there's so much for this side to figure out. And it really starts with unlocking this puzzle of like, what is Wirtz's real role in this team? Like, what is his real sort of identity in terms of like outside of just being a playmaker who's free roaming in that midfield? Because I think allowing him to do that may in theory be what gets the best out of it, but it hurts the system the most. And so like, you've got to reconcile those two things, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, psychology wise, Gally, where do you think? I mean, we know United, right? They're kind of like up and down. This is kind of like a good chance for them and all that kind of stuff. But where do you think? Because I feel like a good Liverpool side doesn't matter what United does on the other side. So it's more about us than United. So how do you think our psychology will be? I mean, obviously being at Anfield helps, but what do you expect after? I mean, these guys are not used to losing, leave alone losing 3 times in a row.
It's how good are we going forward? That's the whole question. For me, it's, are we moving the ball sideways, or are we moving the ball forward when we have opportunities to attack into space? Are we getting the ball to Mo? You know, who's on the left? Is it Ekatike? Is it Gakpo? Is it Rio? Like, it's got to be somebody different, in my opinion. Like, I think he's going to start Gakpo. I wouldn't start Gakpo. Like, I believe it. I know we'll get to the starting lineups. I guess I already tipped my hand. I'm starting Gakpo on the left wing, reluctantly. I think he'll play. I worry about Isak. I don't know if you guys saw, like, Sweden lost earlier in the week and then lost today to Kosovo. So basically,
Yeah.
Sweden missed the World Cup. Like, I think there's like a slim chance they can qualify now, but it's almost like very.
Yeah, they might, because only have 2 games left too, I think, and one of
And
them
they
is
have 1
this.
point,
Yeah.
point at this point. But he played 90 minutes twice this week, which doesn't make me think Liverpool is going to be comfortable with rolling him out there, because the plan was they'd win the first game, and if they won the first game, he wouldn't have to start this one. But then when they lost, he had to start this one, and he played the whole thing again because they were down 1-0. So, like, you got to hope Ekatike is back and ready to start, and he'll start through the middle, I guess, and go with Mo, and probably Gakpo on the left, as much as I'd love to see Rio or Chiesa, but I think it will be Gakpo.
Yeah, I mean, I watched actually that's probably the only other international match I watched, the last 20, 25 minutes of that game. And he did have a couple of chances where you would expect him to get those headers on targets for Isak, and he did not. But yeah, I mean, I'll ask you the same question, Bickler. I know you talked about in terms of, like, you know, like tactically figuring things out, but in terms of like the psyche of the team, what do you expect? Is this almost like a good time for reset? They come back with a vengeance kind of a deal, or there's some lingering self-doubt in the squad?
I mean, I think it's a good time for a reset, in the sense that you get that taste out of your mouth. You've gone out on international duty, you've had different environments, different surroundings. Now it's back to work and you got to reset it. You know, I mean, I think it's good in that regard. I don't think it necessarily solves everything. Especially when you're just adding some tired legs into it for some of these players. Yeah, I mean, I think this is almost like you got to kind of, if you're the man, I think this is a better time for Schlatt to hit the reset button for himself than it is for the players, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think this is more about the manager than the players at this point.
That's fair. So having said that, Gally, you kind of started it, so I'll let you finish that lineup that you had in hand. I know the Konate news, we were talking about it with Gally right before we went on air. Bickler did his vintage come in last minute, throw the suitcase on the chair. But we were talking about Konate and him being sent back, so we kind of expect probably Gomez to start there instead. Give me your 11.
I mean, I had picked Gomez last week, actually. I think with Bickler, I said I would give. I think Gomez deserves a shot out of this break and give him a chance against United, and then a run on the side. I think it'll be. I actually think it'll be Frimpong, Gomez, Virgil, Kirkes, Gravenberch, Jones, Soboslai, Gakpo, Ekatike, Mo.
Okay. So you basically pretty much plugged in Gomez and then took out Mac and put Jones, right? Did I miss anything?
Yep.
Okay.
Gomez, Jones, and Frimpong for Bradley.
Frimpong for Bradley. Okay, sorry, I missed that one. Bickler, what you got?
I like it. I mean, I could see
he's going to put Soboslai right back because he's actually right, but that's what I want to happen. So that's what I gave my lineup.
I actually think it's going to be Bradley at right back. I thought, like, over the course of the break, I thought he actually had a handful of pretty good matches. I think Bradley is I think that's who Slot wants it to be. And so I think he's trying to get talked back into Bradley playing there. And I think he's going to give Bradley every opportunity until he just proves to him that he can't make it 90 minutes fit or without a card.
Are you sold on Bradley?
Hasn't he proven that already?
No. Well, to me, he has. I'm just saying what I think the manager is thinking. I'm not. I don't think that he can do either of those things. I think Bradley is he's a great number 2, but I don't think he's a starting fullback.
Yeah, I kind of agree to that. In some ways, though, I am okay with him starting, knowing you can bring in Frimpong. The only issue now is, I mean, it gives you a lot of flexibility having Szoboszlai out there. I just don't want him pulling Szoboszlai back there again and doing that. I'd rather have him, try out Frimpong over there if you need to make it. Because that's the only thing with Bradley, Gally, is that, he can have a rash challenge and get like an early yellow and stuff like that, which puts you behind the 8 ball. And that's why he usually has to be subbed out earlier than probably planned, even though we talked about this before, he rarely gets 90 minutes in.
Yeah, that's why he's an inconsistent asset. inconsistent assets are basically liabilities, and that's the problem. Like you stop being an asset when you become a liability. Like that's kind of like the root cause, and I think he's kind of shown that. To Paul's point, I think he is what the manager wanted. That's why they gave him a contract through 2030. But he's struggled to step up, and he's left himself looking like he's short of ideas on how to get out of it. And that's what scares me. Like when young players make mistakes, I'm like, people make mistakes. When they can't figure them out or figure out ways to stop making the same mistakes over and over again, that's when I think you can question where they are in their progression. And I think that's where Connor Bradley is right now. And he wasn't in the Northern Ireland lineup today. I don't understand why. Wasn't in the match day squad at all. So I hope that's not another injury or issue that he had, but he wasn't in the match day squad against Germany.
Oh, I did not notice that. And I saw the game too. Not the game itself, but I saw the scoreline, but I did not notice that he was not in there. I mean, here's my thing, man. I understand. I hear both you guys, and you guys are both right in terms of like the Bradley assessment. I guess my confusion concept with Bickler is I find it hard to blame a young kid because I don't even know what we want from the backs anymore. I know you guys touched up on this a little bit last week, but it's like, when it felt like there was a lot more clearer role in terms of the overlap, or sometimes like being that inverted guy, making that run into the box and having like Mo go out wide and stuff like that. I just find it very difficult to figure out what we want from the backs right now. And I don't know, that's because of the play of Gakpo or Mo, if that's what Slot wants. And Brian asked a good question, then why did we buy Frimpong?
Well, I think Frimpong was a number of things. I think he was a great, I think the money was right in that deal. And I think he was
100% financial.
Yeah. And I think he gives you positional versatility, which you don't get from Bradley. I think the Bradley conversation with me is less about what we want out of the fullback and more, can he make it 90 minutes? Like that's the entire conversation for me.
But I mean, that's the thing, Gally. If he can give you, look, even when he was fit, like I always talked about this, like he was being subbed, like Gomez would come in, or we saw Kwanzaa come in a couple of times last one. I'll take the 70 minutes as long as it's the good 70 minutes, the solid 20 minutes, 70 minutes that he can give you. I don't know. Like I say, I find it hard to evaluate him because I have the same issue on the left too. So I find it hard to individualize it because I have the same issue on the left-hand side evaluating Kerkez and Robertson.
No, it's a fair point. I mean, listen, the kid works hard. He gives you everything he has. He has a rash tackle in him, but he's trying to give you a tackle because he's trying to win the ball back on every opportunity he can. He gives everything he can for the badge and for the shirt. And we've seen great performances like the Chelsea away match, his first season. I mean, that Champions League match last year against Real Madrid where he makes the tackle on Mbappe and he just basically puts him in his pocket and like gets up and stands over him and kind of gives it to him. It's beautiful. And someone in the comments is saying he was probably suspended today, which makes sense, which means he accumulated so many yellow cards he couldn't play for his country in a match they really needed to win against Germany. And I think that's the problem that we have, and it kind of rears its ugly head even then for Northern Ireland as it does for Liverpool. You got to be available. Fit is good. Available is even more important.
How much of Frimpong do you think was with a potential Wirtz transfer in mind? Like, hey, if we get this is one of his mates. Like, obviously that's not the entire reason that you buy a player, right? But do you guys think that played a role?
It's like keeping Costas around to make coffee for Mo. But no, I'm not talking about. But I felt, and occasionally, Gally, you can kind of see them when they're on the pitch at the same time. They're on the same wavelength. I just find it difficult to understand. And I know Frimpong has not been good, but why have not we forced that a bit more? Because you can kind of tell he's more used to what Wirtz is going to do in terms of making those runs.
I think the problem right now is that the manager is within two minds of whether or not to play Wirtz. So if you're not sure whether or not you're going to play the $116 million mate, you don't have to play the $40 million mate. That makes him a little bit better than he is right now. So like I think that's almost where I think Frimpong has actually been a little bit of he's been like a victim of other people's success or other people's failures.
Yeah.
Because I think because other guys who have struggled from the rip, primarily being, in some ways Isak, also Verts, some would say Kirkes. I think it's been kind of overblown and kind of maligned because I think he's been good overall. But Frimpong gets the start in the first match. He plays in the Community Shield when we're all sleep deprived after the 24-hour podcast. And he plays well. He scores a goal. He creates a couple opportunities. He plays well for spots at the beginning of the first half, and then he hurts his hamstring and he's out. And I feel like in some ways, from there, the Bradley injury forced Soboslai to play right back, which almost led to him being displaced because he's not the guy you're going to bring in if you're thinking about swapping around a midfielder. Like, he's the guy you bring in to either start a match or attack. And he's only gotten those opportunities late. So I kind of feel like he's kind of a subject. And that's why I hope he gets the start in this United match. And I hope the manager gives him like 3 or 4 matches on. He has to start at Frankfurt. Like, he understands the German. He's played there before. Like, for me, his best match this year was against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. A little bit freer, a little less physical. He has to play. He has to play, and he has to get a run in this side. Because if not, we will start to question, like, what is it about this manager where he's given players and he just refuses to use them?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I do. That's why I like the Frimpong shouts as right back, and then play him on Wednesday. And then when you go away to Brentford, that's why you use Bradley. But
absolutely, because he cannot play against those long throws.
Yes,
not a good idea.
Exactly, and that's why I feel like it's a good fit. And then he'll have the space against Frankfurt, and I think he will have the space and that threat against an unorganized Manchester United back four and stuff. Bickler, did we ever finish your starting 11?
It was everybody. I agreed with Gally except for Bradley in there.
You put Bradley in there. Okay. Yeah. And I don't know, like, maybe I do want Frimpong just because, let's try this and try something different. I just hope this international break gave Slot some time to figure something out. Brian is talking about, and I did if you didn't watch the Thursday night podcast, him and Mecca were talking a lot about this in terms of like the left wing and right wing. And I do think it affects what the left back and right back are doing, obviously. But I can't put those on the guys up top or the guys on the back because I really don't understand clear idea of what we're exactly trying to do. I don't know if Slot does. You would think when we signed these guys, Bickler, there was a much clearer vision of what we're going to do.
Well, I'm just going to make this really simple. I think that if you no longer prioritize winning the ball in the front third of the pitch, then you can no longer play a high line. And I think that he's got to reconcile those because we're no longer prioritizing any sort of like team press or winning the ball high up the pitch. We're allowing teams to carry the ball into our third of the pitch. Or even worse, turning it up on the front of the pitch and not prioritizing winning it back. So when teams don't have pressure, they're essentially just going to thread that high line every time. And that's what we've been dealing with all year.
Yeah, and I honestly, I thought, especially in the Chelsea, I think Isak and Mo at the same time. I don't know if that's a good way to go about that. And I don't know, that's partially because, Isak was pressing a lot on Newcastle, but it's a kind of like a different system because then your right wing, even if when Isak is not, your right winger is. Whereas I don't think you can afford to have 2 guys who kind of press and kind of don't. It could put a lot of pressure on your midfield and defense and stuff.
Let's not kind of anything. Mo has made it very clear there's little defense and little pressing happening. Like, there is looking for passes. And even at times when he has triggered the press, I feel like he's been one of the ones who's been the most out of sorts. It's not a knock on him. He's out of form. We all know that. We can see it. There's a lack of confidence even when he gets the ball. Like, at times, like, you see him make the cuts and he makes the moves and he still beats the defender, but he can't put it on frame. He's not even making goalkeepers work. and you can see the frustration in his face. So like, I'm not going to pile on him. He's a wonderful player. He's the best goal scorer to be at the club in years, but right now it's not working. And I think they do have to look at like how they're doing things, because they brought in these other players to score goals because they were ready for this moment to happen. Like there was a time when it was going to happen, and I think they were ready for it. That's why they bought Isak. It might have been a season earlier than they hoped, but if they have to, I think they're going to have to shift. And I mean, we've already seen it with Verts playing and the way he plays off the left, and why Gakpo's been so instrumental this year, and why we've been so frustrated with him at times. I just think we're seeing a very awkward period for this club, because it is a true transition. I don't think people wanted to deal with it coming off a kind of a miraculous to historic title winning season.
Yeah, I think it's almost like we didn't want to think about it a little bit. Some of the like, like it sounds too good. It was like a ultimate team put together for those FIFA players over there, where they're like, oh, it's like a win-win. You got Mo on the right, Isak in the middle, kind of a deal. But I think you can have Mo do what he did last year, because the guy in the middle is still running, even though sometimes aimlessly when Nunes is out there. But when it was like Diaz and stuff like that, doing all that running and pressing, but if the guy in the middle is not either, you can't have two guys up top not press. And the third guy is Gakpo, mind you. He's not like well known for pressing either. It's pretty shocking, because he's looked the most pressing, and that says a lot. When out of your front three, Gakpo looks like the guy who presses the most. Having said all this, please tell me in your projections and predictions that I'm not going to have to deal with Edip's ass on Rival Bros talking shit about a good United results. What do you expect to see, Bickler, result-wise?
I'll go 3-1, good guys.
I like it. The Timucin special. I'll take it, because I do see a stupid set-piece goal by United there somewhere. Gally.
Yeah, I'm in for a 3-1 as well. I don't know if it'll be that close, but we'll get one late maybe, and kind of hold it off. But it'll be like 2-1 and KG late.
I'm all for it. As long as we win and I don't have to deal with it, it's all good. Which will be on Rival Bros later on this week. I think it should be airing on Wednesday. If we do go make it live, we'll announce it on the channel as well. Mateusz, the Polish Prince, should be hosting the panel tomorrow with the Premier League panel. So those boys should be back as well. Do tune in for that. And then Thursday night podcast with Mecca and the Bolt crew is going to be on. And the morning shows should be coming back next week. So keep an eye on the socials for like the schedule in terms of which direction we're going to go with that. But let's hope for a win. So we're back to happy days over here, because there's way too much toxic negativity going around that I'm finding it hard to deal with. But aside from guys giggling after a game in the middle of the pitch, those guys should take it to the goddamn locker room, and I will take that to the grave, damn it. But have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.